Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Jessica Brinkley, and I'm a Senior Program Policy Specialist with the National Education Association's ESP Quality Department. And I'm here to welcome you this evening to tonight's webinar, which is the tips and tricks on how to utilize video conferencing platforms webinar. At this time, myself, along with my colleague, Lisa Connor, who's also a Senior Program and Policy Specialist within the NEA ESP Quality Department, will be serving with you as facilitators for tonight's webinar. This presentation is brought to you by NEA's ESP Quality Department, which is housed in NEA's Center for Great Public Schools. The ESP Quality Department represents and advocates for the nearly 500,000 NEA education support professionals, also referred to as ESP members. Our strategic focus is to elevate ESP careers by developing, implementing, and promoting best practices, policies, and professional supports that equip ESP with the knowledge and skills to become empowered leaders, accomplished professionals, and members of a high-quality workforce prepared to meet the needs of the whole student. Before we get into our full swing and hand things over to our presenter for the evening, I would like to take a moment to walk you through a few important housekeeping items. First and foremost, this session is being recorded. You will receive an email with a link to the webinar recording 7 to 10 business days after the conclusion of this live session. To help ensure that we have captured a quality recording, all participants have been placed in mute upon entry mode. Although you have been muted upon entry, we ask that you also help ensure that you stay muted throughout the session unless you are unmuted by the host. At the bottom of your webinar screen, you'll notice a feature, the chat feature, and that is available for you to use throughout this session. This interactive feature can be used to ask questions, make comments, or participate in various activities throughout the session. Again, since you are in mute mode, we encourage you to use that section at any time. While we have made time for question and answer towards the end of the webinar, please feel free to type questions into the chat box as they come to mind. We will track the questions that come in and will save all unanswered questions to open up the question and answer portion of tonight's session. Should we not have time to answer your question, we will contact you individually with a response. No question is a bad question, so please make sure your voices are heard via the chat feature if you need something clarified. Webinar materials and handouts will be made available in 2 ways. Participants of tonight's live session will be able to download handouts directly from the chat box at the end of the webinar after completing the 3-question evaluation. Participants of recorded sessions will be able to download session-specific handouts directly from the NEA ESPQ webinar archives page underneath the webinar description. Before we engage in tonight's lively discussion, I would like to acknowledge that we begin tonight's session by acknowledging that we across the country meet on the traditional lands served by Native peoples. We honor America's first people and all elders past, present, and emerging, and we are called upon to learn and share what we learn about the tribal history, culture, and contributions that have been suppressed in telling the story of America. As I mentioned, you are participating in the tips and tricks on how to utilize video conferencing platforms webinar. And our presenter tonight is Sabina Ellis. Sabina is currently a data entry manager in the South Orange Maplewood School District in New Jersey. She is also the PR webmaster and social media manager for Essex County Education Association and sits on the New Jersey Education Association Technology Committee. She was a technology integration trainer for the past 9 years, where she provided professional development to faculty and staff, handled technical maintenance of devices, provided customized training sessions, along with handling day-to-day operations. She also taught enrichment, after-school classes in coding, robotics, and Minecraft. Sabina is a Google Suites for Educational Level 1 certified, Evernote certified consultant, and PowerSchool Gradebook Pro certified. So Sabina is going to get us started tonight with some great information. I am going to stop sharing my screen, and she is going to pick up by sharing her screen and getting us started.
Tonight's agenda, we will focus on Zoom conferencing and Google Meet, benefits of video conferencing, understanding the layout and settings of Zoom conferencing, understanding the settings of Google Meet and using the Chrome extensions, and video conferencing etiquette. The benefits of video conferencing. We're going to learn how to enable the digital workforce. Video conferencing is mainly used in the corporate end of training, where the software not only creates a more collaborative meeting culture in an organization, it's a foundation for enabling today's digital workforce. Video meetings help teams maintain human connections across the world. Saving time and money. A lot of corporations have found that using the video conferencing cut down on travel expenses across the world. So while business relationships can thrive from in-person meetings, travel can consume large chunks of your time and budget. Also, it provides users with convenience. In addition to no longer needing to travel to see colleagues or clients, remote tools also fuel more timely connections. Individuals can utilize video conferencing platforms to connect quickly with colleagues when time-sensitive or pressuring situations arise. Users can benefit from the ability to connect seamlessly with individuals situated in different time zones outside of standard work hours while doing so from the comfort of your home. Now, we're going to start off with Zoom, as we're using this platform as well. I don't know if everybody has noticed that if you do not sign into Zoom, your name shows up with a black screen with your name. So notice that when you are using Zoom platform, Zoom, you have to actually download the software to get the full benefit of the usage. You either have to download it to your desktop or you download it to your mobile device. So when you do log in, your name will appear or your picture will appear in the top right-hand corner where the time and date is located. You can schedule everything from the home screen. You can have a new meeting, or you could join with the conference code. However, if the link is sent in your email, you just click the link and it'll automatically join. When you do join Zoom, you can either sign up with your Gmail account, or you could just create an account directly to Zoom. The main window frame of Zoom, as you see, you could join a meeting that's in progress. As you can see in the upper right-hand corner, is the initials JG. This is where you know you are signed in or showcase your picture. Down at the bottom, you have schedule, allows for setting up future meetings in advance. You could share your screen. You could share your screen in advance as long as you have the Zoom ID and the new meeting starts an instant meeting. Your Zoom tool tab bar. If your home button. After signing in, the home tab is the default tab. Your chat, you can select the chat tab to view private conversations with your contacts or group conversations. Now with that chat, if you're having a personal conversation in that chat and this Zoom meeting is being recorded, everything will be recorded, including that private chat between you and that individual. The meetings, when you select the meetings tab and click upcoming to view, start, or edit, delete, schedule, as a default, this view displays as your personal meeting ID. If you're looking at the top, it will showcase at the top when I'm not sharing my screen. It will showcase in the upper left-hand corner. Your contacts, this tab allows you to view and manage your contacts. So if you're already in a Zoom meeting, if you feel that somebody's not in the Zoom meeting yet, you could send them a quick email and it will allow them to join from that email that you sent them. Search, it allows you to search for meetings or contacts. So say for instance, you want to be in another Zoom meeting, you can actually search for that meeting while you're in another meeting. A lot of these features are not part of the free Zoom feature, which allows you up to 1 hour for a free meeting. You actually have to pay for these services. Now, there are 4 differences between Zoom on your phone versus your laptop. I get a lot of these questions of why the Zoom platform looks totally different on your mobile device than on a desktop. Zoom laptop versus your phone viewing options. So when you're using Zoom on your phone, you can see a maximum of 4 people at a time in the gallery view. So if you're taking a class or talking to a large group of people, the only way to get a comprehensive view of everyone at once is that you have to use your laptop software. The desktop Zoom app will allow you to show up to 49 thumbnails at once in the gallery view. On your device, if you are on your mobile phone or on a tablet, it will highlight the speaker at that time. So that way, if somebody is speaking, you will not be able to see anybody else talking. Your shortcuts, I don't know if many of you have utilized the shortcut portion of Zoom, but it's actually part of your settings, your keyboard shortcuts. So as you can see, if you are in a meeting, you don't always have to click on unmute. You can just hit your space bar. That's one of the quickest tools. If you hit your space bar once and hold it, you can speak or make a comment, and then when you let go, it stays muted. And when you hit Command K, you can hop on a chat with someone, or press Option plus Y to raise your hand or lower your hand. All this is featured in your Settings tab, which is that little tool gear. When you click on there, it takes you to this option, and it's down at the bottom, right before Accessibility, where it gives you your keyboard shortcuts. Zoom screen sharing. If you are sharing your Zoom screen with someone on your phone, you won't be able to pause it. Only on the desktop, you can pause your screen to share. The phone aspect is very limited. It's mainly just to be used to join in on a meeting and use the quick, easy functions. The desktop, to get the full length of what Zoom conferencing is, you will have to download the actual software to your computer. In meeting Zoom host controls. So say for instance, you are the one to set up a Zoom meeting, you will see more features as a host. So as for instance, you can control breakout rooms, you can broadcast your meetings to Facebook, so that way you can have a broader audience to share, but you only can do that from your desktop version. So if you're going to need to manage the meeting quite a bit, you have to use the actual laptop software rather than using a mobile tablet. And as you can see, your host settings, you have control, and it shows you the camera control. You can hop in and out of breakout rooms. If you choose to have breakout rooms, you can invite from the screen. You can start your video, stop the video. You can share your content or your camera to broadcast live. Things of that option. That's only from the host perspective. And this comes with not the free package. You actually have to purchase the, I believe it's the premium package for this version. Touch-up appearance. We all like those filters on those pictures. So when Zoom first came out, they did not have this feature. This is one of the latest updates that they added in. You could touch up your appearance. So for instance, it will clear up all your, if you want your skin to look smooth, it's like adding a filter to your face. So it makes everything look smooth and lay out. So you go right into your video settings, our famous tool gear. You click on video. Right under mirror my video is your touch up my appearance. In this mirror image, you will like that check off, because what happens is, if you do not check off mirror my video, it shows the opposite. So if I lift my left hand, it will showcase on the right side of my body. But if you check mirror my video, it will showcase exactly what it's supposed to be. Always mute your microphone. I love this feature because you can actually mute your microphone and turn off your camera even before you log in to your Zoom meeting. This way it assures you that there's no background noise when you're logging in. You could come in quietly to a meeting. These features are under audio, our famous settings tool. You can mute your microphone when joining a meeting. You can join audio by computer. That way you don't have to keep clicking those prompts when you log into a meeting. These are already preset for you once you set it for yourself. Also, your audio settings. If you choose to launch the meeting before you change these settings, you can always click on the up arrow and click on audio settings. This is a great tool to have, especially if you already logged in before the meeting starts. So as it launches, you're already set and ready to go. Always turn your video off. Many people enjoy this setting. Everybody's not meant to be on camera, or they don't want to be on camera. So you can always turn your video off when joining a meeting. It's in the same section as your video under meetings. So you can always display the participant name on this video as well. You can always show video preview of what you're going to look like. Or you can also hide non-video participants or spotlight video when someone is speaking. That does that automatically, but if it's background noise and somebody's not muted, it will showcase their view versus the person that's actually speaking. This is all found of your settings, video, and you can turn off your video when joining a meeting. These are the latest enhancements of Zoom. When you're hosting a Zoom meeting, the host can report users to Zoom's trust and safety team, who will review any potential misuse of the platform and take appropriate action. So say, for instance, there's something going on in the chat or somebody's making inappropriate comments. So what happens is you're going to hit that security tab that's located at the bottom. You're going to hit report. Once you hit report and report the person that's logged into the meeting at that time, Zoom will come in and that person will be automatically logged out of the Zoom meeting, and it will no longer be allowed to come back in. You can enable the waiting room. This was a new feature. This has never been added into Zoom before the pandemic hit. They were very lenient on their protocols and their security issues. So now that many people were complaining about people joining in or hacking in, they enabled the waiting room. Now the host has control over who comes in the meeting. They have to wait their turn. It's like waiting to get into the doctor's office. This is your waiting room. And then you can lock the meeting. Once the meeting has begun and you started, you can have people not come into the meeting. Or if you have multiple meetings running at once, you could revert them back to another meeting or say, oh, we're going to have another one running at this time, and they will have to come back. That allows to unwanted disruptions. And also, you could remove participants. So if you want to report the user and they can remove themselves, or you could just remove the participants yourself and they can no longer re-enter that meeting. So say, for instance, they go back to that email and try to click that email, it will give them a red flag saying you will no longer issue this pass into this meeting. The additional meeting safeguards that have been added: complex meeting IDs. So for instance, when Zoom first started back in March, when they noticed that everybody was using Zoom to meet, they did not have meeting IDs. And once they created the meeting ID was very simple and easy to comprehend. So on the dark web, a lot of the hackers were able to hack into the meetings using these simple IDs that Zoom had created because it was not complex at all. The meeting passwords are now more complex, being that they can have mixed syllables, or you could create your own. If you create your own, try not to keep it as simple as possible. You want to mix it up with symbols, like you're creating a password for your email. You want to mix it with symbols because, say, for instance, if the meeting is called video conferencing, a lot of times people use those words, video conferencing 1. Very simple, and that's the easy way to get hacked as well. You want to use something that is complex, but it's easy to remember, so you like to mix it up with symbols, numbers, uppercase letters. Meeting registration. This does not come with the free package. This actually comes with the paid packages as well. Create registrations. That way you have an access of knowing how many people are actually register for the meeting. They don't wait till last minute. That way you can showcase how many people are needed. This is an easy way for teachers, staff to get control of how many people are actually attending the meeting in advance. Enable meeting preset profiles, only entry to authenticated users. So for instance, if you are not registered through Zoom or you have not signed in with a Zoom account, say for instance, you can sign in using your email account, and you find that the person, when they log in, has a black screen with just their name, that means they did not sign into the account. So here, you can authorize those users that they have to sign into their Zoom account in order to join the meeting. This is another way to keep track or announce yourself. That way you know that they are a person and not a robot. Recording security. All cloud recordings are encrypted now. When they first started, Zoom was not encrypted. That's why it was so much hacking going on with Zoom meetings. They were not encrypting their recordings at all. So right now they have taken that extra step with this enhancement and actually pushed out the recording security. The audio watermarks. This is very important. When you turn this on to embed it, it uses personal information to the audio. What happens is it blocks out all background noise. If somebody has unmuted themselves, if the audio file is shared without permission, it will alert the host, and Zoom can help identify which participant recorded this meeting. So this is a great feature to know and have and to remember because it does alert you. The message preview options. Users can now enable Zoom chat notifications to not show chat content while screen sharing. Secure account contact sharing. The Zoom 5.0 does support a new data structure for larger organizations. So right now, you can have a meeting using up to, I believe, 350 people at once in a Zoom meeting. They went from 250 to 350 because of Google said we'll start at 250. So now you can have a meeting up to 350 people in a Zoom meeting. Control profile picture. The host or the account admin can disable this ability for participants to show their profile pictures. So this is a great way that Zoom, because they noticed that a lot of school districts were using Zoom to meet with students. So you could disable this feature if you just want to have a verbal conversation with students without showing their pictures, because that's a legal and personal issue. You could actually disable this feature just to have a conversation. The data center information. Hosts can now select which data center regions they would like their in-meeting traffic to use when scheduling a meeting, which means that you don't want to use a data center that's out in the Midwest. You want to use something closer to your region if I'm in Northeast. This way, it's easier for me to communicate with somebody within Zoom to gather my data for me specifically for my region. Now we're going to move over to Google Meet. Zoom is very easy and straightforward. Google Meet, they are still trying to get ahead of Zoom, which I don't see that getting anywhere. So the difference between Google Meet and Zoom. Google Meet was made specifically for G Suite for education users. And it's very structured to where you cannot manipulate, you can't move away from it. It's very encrypted and it's very structured. You can only use Google Meet if you had a G Suite account. It was not used for people that have personal Gmail accounts. They just opened that platform up back in May. And they allowed it to be used for free, I believe, until September 30th of 2020. Now, with Google Meet, you can now schedule your meetings directly from your Gmail account, which I love. You don't have to actually open up the platform. There we go. You just click on the sidebar. When you click the sidebar, you can start a meeting. When they first started Google Meet was actually merged with Google Hangout. Many of you probably know it as Google Hangout, but they noticed that many individuals were not using Google Hangout. So when they created Google Meet, they actually made the platform larger and more accessible. So now when you have to start a Google Meet, you can only start or schedule a Google Meet from a Google Calendar. That was the only way. When the pandemic hit, they started making quick changes. First, they will allow it to be open personally to personal accounts, and then they made it accessible to start or join a meeting from Google Calendar or from your Gmail account. So when you click join now for a video meeting or join use a phone audio, it clicks it right from your Gmail, so using one platform. You can schedule start a meeting from your Google Calendar. You're going to click create. You add your event details and guests. You click add rooms, the location, or it's a conference. You put the conference link. It generates a code for you, and you click save. It gives you these options to join. It makes it very straightforward. Right now, Google Meet, you can have up to 250 participants free in one single meeting. You can also join or schedule a meeting from the Google Meet platform. And then if you're on your tablet or the mobile device, you download the Google Meet app and you can join right from that platform. Your customized videos and sharing to interact. As you can see, Google Meet looks totally different from Zoom. At the bottom left-hand corner, you have the name of the meeting that they share with the guests. Same instance, you can turn your mic off and turn your camera off before you join a Google Meet meeting. And you must hit that phone, that red phone, to leave the meeting. If you do not hit that phone to leave the meeting, you are not logged out of that. Just recently, I believe it was yesterday, we were on a Google Meet meeting. Somebody did not hit leave meeting. It recorded everything that was happening in their house. So you must hang up that phone. Present now, you can share your screen or give presentations. Those common 3 dots that Google loves to hide other settings in. Here, you can change, you can record your meeting. So now with Google Meet, anybody can record the session. That has been a big issue. They're working on that setting. So if you don't want your meeting recorded, your other participants can record it, and there's no options for them not to at this time. Changing your video resolution. So say for instance, it pulls a lot of web Wi-Fi. If you don't have, your Wi-Fi is not strong in your house, you do not want to use HD. You would like to go to the lower resolutions for video viewing. And then you can also change your layout. Then you're moving up, you can remove a participant as well. If you hover your mouse over the participant, you can pin the person speaking. You can remove the participant. And then at the top, you have your chat box. You can chat with meeting participants, and you can view meeting participants. Live captions is only featured in Google Meets. This has been a great feature for those teachers that have special needs students, because now they could just read the bottom. This feature is not in Zoom. Right now, it's only in Google Meet. So Google Meet allows you to have live captions, but as you hit record, it does not record the live captions. They're still working on that. This can be enabled and disabled by a button at the bottom. If you're in your screen, at the bottom right-hand corner, you have turn off captions, turn on caption, and it will have present now. This is a nice feature that can help you understand the person better if the connection is weak and you cannot hear their voice. Sharing your desktop. Sharing your desktop works exactly like it does in Zoom. You can share your entire screen if you want to present any presentations from your laptop, desktop. You can do that by using this as well. It's the same way it works. You just share your screen. These are the features that are similar to Zoom. Changing your layout. Now, when you log into Google Meet, it gives you 4 different layouts. When you hit those famous 3 dots on the bottom right-hand corner, you have your auto, where it just sets you to the default. You can have your sidebar where in the main frame, it will highlight the speaker and everybody else will be on a sidebar. Or you just have a spotlight of whoever's speaking, or you can have a tile. That tile display is the new latest feature because you will have to download a Chrome extension to get the tile layout. So now they just added into the actual layout format. And this feature, again, is featured at the bottom right-hand corner when you hit those 3 dots to choose your preference of your layout. Now, Google is famous for their extensions and Chrome add-ons. So when Google Meet came about, first thing people started doing was generating Chrome extensions and extensions for Google Meet. So the grid view is similar to the toggle, but you could view up to 100 people in one frame. This is pretty cool. The grid view gives you everybody at once. It looks overwhelming when I first used it, but without me scrolling from screen to screen, I can actually get everybody in one view. I love this extension. I think it's great to have. The nod reactions, as you notice in Zoom, you can just hit the reactions at the bottom. In Google Meet, everything is an extension that you have to add on. So if you have add-on Chrome extensions, you will love this tool. The nod reactions for Google Meet, you can have your emojis, your hand raised, your thumbs up. It gives you all the reactions that you have on your phone with your emojis. Your Google Meet attendance. This is one of the best extensions ever. It actually keeps attendance for you. So it allows you to keep your meeting going or meeting with your students or meet with anybody you set up meetings with. Here, it would track who leaves, who comes back in, it timestamps it, just like their other Google Suite additions. This extension is intended for teachers who transition to online classes. Made simple, this extension is brand new. They just launched it back in late May. So this is a simple way to take attendance. As you start your meet, you can enter a list of expected invitees, and the extension will automatically detect who joins the call and how long they stayed. You can save multiple classes at once and share across your devices. So what happens is it saves it to your Google Drive. Everything is saved to your Google Drive if you are using Google Meet. Your virtual backgrounds. Now, unlike Zoom, Zoom put the stipulation on you have to have a certain, your computer has to be, for Mac, I believe, has to have a quad core and not a duo. Google Meet, being that Google Meet is actually a web-based platform, you add a virtual background extension. Here, they give you the customized virtual backgrounds for your needs. Just like they do for your Google Forms, you can add your screens, you can switch it out, you can customize it. Here, they're doing it for you. You don't need a green screen like you need one for Zoom. Here, you can just enable this feature, you select your background, and you can change it back and forth depending on what you look like. And actually, it crops your face to fit the backdrop. So it's not like you fade into the backdrop, it actually crops your face, and it looks like you're sitting in your backdrop, which is pretty cool. Now, these are the latest features that I know are coming to to Google Meet. They just announced this 2 weeks ago, where they're going to improve the moderator controls. So the meeting moderator will have more control over who can enter, present, speak during live session. You can replace your background. Privacy settings will allow you to blur or replace your background during the live meeting. So say, for instance, you don't want to have time to go back and replace your background and do anything. You can just going to blur it out. That blur is right now, it's only used for WebEx. Your breakout rooms, they're really trying to be competitive with Zoom. So they will be setting up breakout rooms. I believe this should be launching at the end of August, beginning of September. So they will have breakout rooms just like they're going to have in Zoom, where they split a large group into small discussions. Whoever the host or monitor is, they will be able to control those breakout rooms, tap into those rooms and bring them back in. The integrated digital whiteboard. This has been an issue since Google Meet has started with digital learning. Their Jamboard for Google Suite was only allowed, this was an added on piece. A lot of districts did not have Jamboard because it was an extra feature that you had to pay for. They realized that nobody was paying extra money for Jamboard. So now they're gonna make it available for free, which is wonderful. Jamboard is gonna be integrated with Google Meet to provide on-demand annotations and diagrams during a live session. This is a major piece. I think this is the game changer right here, especially for teachers that we need visuals. They need to draw on a whiteboard. Teachers were buying whiteboards and making it drawing. Here, you can have it built into Google Meet. The raise your hand feature, like I showed you the nod reaction, here they're just gonna embed it, the raise your hand feature. And then the quick polls and Q&A like they have now for Zoom, they're gonna add these in. As I said, Google Meet was not meant for digital learning. Google Meet was just to meet with other schools across the world, the globe, just to have a discussion. Now they have to compete with digital learning and we're going virtual. So they have to make these quick changes now before this next school year begins. Now, I compared the two. So the best for quick meetings is Google Meet, and for best large groups is Zoom. Because Google Meet comes free with your G Suite. So I know many times people don't want to use a lot of platforms, and we could just streamline our usage to one platform that could give us the overall view of what we're looking for. I believe that's the best feature. Zoom became a popular source and a platform because anybody can use it. You didn't have to be labeled down or restricted to using a Gmail account. It was open for all to use. Google Meet dropped the ball when they only limited to people with G Suite subscriptions. They realized their mistake when towards the end of May, when they said, oh, now we're gonna make it available for everybody. Zoom was already ahead of the game when they did that, but the only thing that was holding Zoom back was the encryption. It was so easy to hack into. The pros and cons of Google and Zoom. Google Meet, we could all share our screen. You could collaborate tools, send files through chat, free for everyone to use, no additional for calling participants. Also with Google Meet, when this first hit back in February, I believe, they wanted teachers, and I know in my district, to make phone calls, but they didn't want to use their personal cell phone. Google, as you know, has Google Voice, but you can also make direct phone calls through Google Meet. You don't have to launch a meeting. You could just call somebody using Google Meet, which is pretty cool, and it uses a region number, which is very generic. I believe it was coming up as a New York number. So it wasn't using your own personal number. It goes right through, and people were able to make phone calls. It came through very clear, and people enjoyed that feature. With Zoom, it's easy collaboration tools. You get a free account, connects to conferencing equipment, such as external phones. If you want to present something on a board, somebody's outside in another country, you can actually enable, they have extra features. It works with all operating systems. Zoom is meant for mostly, they were really aiming for Windows. I'm just put out there. It was meant for Windows, not for Apple, Mac products. And you can host up to 500 people. That's where they came into, said we just want to increase our number usage, max of 500 people. The cons for Google Meet, the dashboard is not as clean as I like it to be. It's very choppy to me. Zoom is very streamlined. Everybody comes through clear. I believe that Google Meet needs to cut back on their sizing of each person to make it more simple and streamlined and modern looking. It hosts fewer participants because they say 250 is max. That's because of the data usage, and it's a built-in feature for G Suite structure. So their structure is very limited to 250 no matter what suite that you're looking for to use in their application. So they're looking on cutting that back, and it's clunky and unreliable for Mac users. As you can see, Google is an Android product, so yes and no, you have your ups and downs. With Zoom, disable pop-up blockers. Now, if you download the free feature of Zoom, you're going to get a lot of pop-ups. And if you cannot call into a Zoom meeting, you have to actually click the link and say, I'm calling in on my phone. Google, you can actually just call in. Now, video etiquette. This is going to be ongoing. When you set up your device, you want to be in a well-lit room. You know those the camera rings, the camera light rings. I actually have one set up in front of me at this time. You want to make sure your camera is on. Selective mute, we went over, make sure you are muted before you join in the meeting. That way there's no background noise. You're speaking, make sure you raise your hand. I was in a meeting early today where everybody was cutting everybody off, just You want to make sure that everybody gets their turn and allotted time. If you see someone is speaking, always use your reactions. We all see everybody speaking, but we don't want everybody to speak at the same time. You're recording. If you're not comfortable joining in on a meeting, you can ask the host, is this meeting being recorded? Is it going to be shared? I will not to be part of it. That way you don't have to have your video turned on. Consider your location. As of right now, I noticed that when we launched the virtual learning, your location, a lot of students were joining in their bedrooms, which means that their beds were not made. They had animals on their bed. A lot of them didn't have shirts on. So it's like you want to present an etiquette. Make sure you are dressed professionally or have a shirt on. Make sure you're in a space where you can concentrate or you can blur. Say if you cannot clean your room up, put a blur background on. Sensitive information. You do not want to share sensitive information in a chat. You would like to talk off chat with that because you don't know who's recording, and all of it is being recorded, including the chat. If it's in a private group, it's being recorded as the overall meeting. Prepare. Remember, this is if it's a formal staff meeting, you would like to look like you at work. A lot of times I'm looking at these meetings I'm in every day. People are laying in their beds. I'm like, turn your camera off. We can see you. And they forget that their camera is turned off. If you have all these features set prior to logging in, you don't have to worry about turning your camera off, muting your microphone. Those can all be preset before you join. And engage in chat. We love the chat, but we also want to keep it engaging and interesting. And you just want to be engaged. I know that we've been on these video conferencing since March, and I know you get a lot of fatigue. So you don't make sure you have to join every video chat. You can limit yourself or schedule when needed. And thank you. Now it's time for Q&A.
We are now at the question and answer portion of tonight's session. Again, as everyone has been placed in mute upon entry mode, we ask that you please continue to stay muted, and any questions that you have to please begin posting them in the chat area. We know that tonight's discussion, we went over two important video conferencing platforms that all educators are using. We know that many of our ESP as well as our teachers are using them, and from the questions that we've received, there are things that I know that we'll be able to discuss in our Q&A portion that will help all of our educators as we are using these platforms. And so to get us started for this portion, I am going to hand the mic, so to speak, over to my colleague, Lisa. She's gonna help to moderate the Q&A portion.
Thanks, Jessica. The first question is, does Google Meet have a tool that makes it possible for the teacher or ESP and the student to write, underline, draw on the material that the teacher is presenting?
Currently, right now, Google Meet does not have that feature. Like I said, the new feature that will be added in would be Jamboard. That will be the interactive tool where the teacher and the students can write and underline at the same time, and it becomes interactive. In the meantime, there is it's two platforms that you could utilize in Google Tools. You could, it's called a digital whiteboard in Google Meet, which is actually a Chrome extension, and also Canvas. So you can use Canvas and digital whiteboard, which is 2 Chrome extensions right now that you can utilize at this time. But come end of, I believe, August, they'll be implementing Jamboard automatically.
Okay, thanks. The next question is it possible to have an interactive worksheet that the teacher and student can both work on at the same time?
Yes, the 2 platforms that you can use. So say, for instance, we're in Google Meet, and you would like your students to become interactive. You would tell your students or ask your students to open up a new tab. You would share your screen. You can use Kahoot or Quizlet. So those 2 platforms, you can share your screen. You ask your students to open up a new screen, and they can join with the code at the same time. You're engaging in the class, and they're also engaging on those 2 platforms in real time.
Thanks. I also just want to note that even though these questions are asking about teacher specific, we have a lot of paras that do hands-on work with students as well. So not to exclude our paras. These are just questions that members on the wrote in the chat. So the third question is it possible to share an interactive game so that the teacher or para and the student can play together at the same time?
Yes, like I said, the Kahoot or Quizlet, they come with code. So if you're the creator of the game, you share that code out to the student and para, and you all engage at the same time in real time in that game.
Great. If you are hosting the meeting, do you have the raise your hand feature?
Yes, you do.
Okay. How do we set up a virtual background? I get stuck at needing a green screen.
Yes. Is it on Zoom you're speaking of?
Yeah, that would be Zoom. Mm-hmm.
Yes. With Zoom, you have to have, your computer has to be compatible. So say, for instance, if your computer is not up to date with the latest Windows feature, or your Mac is not updated with the latest, with Mac, you have to have a quad processor, not a dual processor. That's the main difference, to have a virtual background setup.
Okay. Can Google Meet provide live captions in other languages other than English? In other words, if a teacher or para is speaking in Spanish, can meeting participants see the information in Spanish?
Yes, so with the Google Meet feature of turn your captions on, you have to change that in your Google settings that you will utilize for your Google apps. So say, for instance, you want all your information in Spanish, you would change it in that feature first. And then when you launch the Google Meet, you turn on your captions and it will give you that language.
Okay. How do you add the extensions in Google Meet?
You're gonna type in Chrome, Google Meet Chrome extensions. I believe it is, I will type it in the chat to give you. Google Meet extensions. It's actually listed in the Google Chrome store. So I'm gonna copy the link and I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a longer question. Can I set up 2 Zoom or Google meetings for the same time under my account if I set up the second meeting for no waiting room? Or do I need to have a separate account for the second meeting? For example, if I am the host and need to meet with a student at 9 a.m. and I would like the para to meet with a different student at 9 a.m.
So you want to set up 2 separate meetings at the same time? Is that
That's the question.
So yes, you can. So the instance, if you set up 2 meetings, if you want the para to meet with the student first, you will have to give the para access as the co-host to that meeting first. So say, for instance, you give them the host key. Zoom has a feature called the host key. So when they log in, they could type in the host key, or they could just make themselves the co-host of that meeting until you get there.
Okay, thank you. Which platform do you believe is easier for teachers and staff to learn, considering most of us will start back to school within 1 month?
It depends on your school district. I know a lot of school districts have a lot of pushback of using Zoom because of the security issue. And a lot of them are going forth with Google Meet because they find that it's more structured and secure to use. Google Meet is very easy to use. You join. If you get used to the extensions, if you put everything in place prior to you starting your meetings, I believe Google Meet is easy to use. It's one of the easiest platforms.
Okay. In Google, when I present my screen, I'm not able to see my students. Is there a way to present and also be able to see the children?
If you install that gallery view, I believe it was the gallery view for Google Meet, and you share your screen, your gallery view was showcased on the right-hand side, just like in Zoom. It will have a panel of 4 people, and you could click how you would like to, or have them going across the top. So yes, you can if you install that extension.
Okay, you did talk about this a little bit, but how secure is Zoom versus Google Meet? If lessons are recorded, won't the district end up owning the intellectual property?
Yes, and Google Meet, if your district has a subscription with Google and they're already paying for the platform, they do own that as well. Yes, if you're using your district email for that platform, yes. I would, if you're going outside of the district and using another platform, that means that everything is now reliable on you. So you don't want anything to go wrong on your end. I'll say that you want to use everything that the district is providing for you for virtual learning. That way you're not having any legal issues regarding outside usage.
Could you speak to the security differences between Zoom versus Google Meet? Is there one you think is more secure than the other?
Google Meet is more secure, just for the simple fact that it was created just for G Suite for Education, which means that it's very structured, it's very forthcoming, and it's encrypted. Encryption means that hackers cannot hack into it. It takes a long time if they're trying to hack into it, and there's so many walls that are put up for Google because it's for education that they cannot hack into it. Zoom, for instance. Say, for instance, you recorded a lesson in Zoom. Somebody complained. They went to Zoom directly to get information. Zoom, in their liability, they have it where they just release the information to the police. Whoever's looking for the information, they release it without your knowledge. So somebody asks, oh, I wasn't sure why my son joined this class and I don't like that, it's inappropriate. They could go directly to Zoom and request the information in that recording without your knowledge. Google does not do that. They will allow you to know, they will contact you. However, it is truly encrypted. You cannot, because it's so structured, they have so many firewalls up that it's hard to break into.
Okay. I just want to note the time. We've got about 4 minutes left and we've got about 4 questions left. So for clarification, in Google Meet, can closed captions be included in the recordings?
No, at this time, the captions cannot be recorded cannot be recorded at this time. That's a feature that I asked Google directly. So I've been waiting a month for an answer because I believe that is important to have for future use. So let's see what's going to happen come into August.
Can you walk through the actual steps to set up a background on Zoom again, please?
Sure. So your Zoom, once you log into Zoom, you're going to click that tool gear for your settings. Once you click that tool gear for your settings, you go down to where it says virtual background. They give you, I believe it's 4 different backgrounds that they already have in place, along with 2 videos, like a GIF. If you do not have if your device is not compatible, it would not pick up on your background. However, if you use your mobile device or your tablet, I believe that it is compatible on those devices where you go to the same settings, virtual background, you could choose your background. Also, you could upload your own personalized picture. as well. Once you add it into the virtual background library, you're able to use that feature at all times.
Okay. The next question is, in order to access Google Meet and its features, must the organization have an account with G Suites, or could I use the free version and have all the features with a time limit?
Are you saying using the free features for your personal account? Is that the free?
I'm not sure who asked that question. If they can maybe clarify. Yes.
If I can access all those features that you brought up in the presentation, if I can access them on my free account. Because currently our organization does not have G Suites, and it's something that we have been using with our students, with our adult education students. So I want, maybe we can start, because we do use Zoom, but right now, currently, before the new year begins, we were interested in as many things that we can use to assist our adult education students. So I'm interested in using Google Meet, but can I access everything through my personal account?
At this time, yes, you can.
Okay.
Your personal account has access to Google Meet, which means that you have the access to the Google Meet extensions.
Okay.
So if you just go to the Chrome store, you can download all the features. Anything that's available for G Suite right now is available for your personal account as well.
Okay, and one more question. Is there a time limit? I think I read on one of the slides that there was a 60-minute time limit on the free.
Yes, that's for Zoom. Zoom has a time limit. Google Meet does not.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. The next question is, in Google Meet, number one, can files be downloaded from the chat? And number two, can chats be saved by the host?
Yes, the files can be, the chats will be downloaded to your Google Drive. And yes, the chats can be saved by the host.
Okay, thank you. In Google Classroom, what's the difference between return and post when correcting students' work?
In Google Classroom?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the difference is if you add an assignment in Google Classroom and you make a copy for every student, and if they return it back to you, what happens is Google Classroom will alert you that the student did return the work to you, and it can be corrected. The post means that you're posting assignments, or you're posting a status or an update. So if the students return the work, it alerts you that they're returning it and that you can now grade it. But a post means that you're just posting it to the stream to post an announcement or a new assignment.
Okay. Which platform has the waiting room?
Right now, Zoom has the waiting room.
Okay. In Google Meet, and this is the last question I have, if your county has an account, are extensions free?
Yes.
Great. All right, any other questions?
I think that's all that we have in the chat box. So I am going to conclude the Q&A portion with that last question. And so that will conclude it for this webinar. Thank you so much for your active participation in this session. As you know, right now there's a pandemic that's been happening, and it's having devastating impacts on our students and educators, and especially our communities of color. And in times like these, we depend on the stability and support of our public schools, public health systems, and public safety nets, that the supports that they provide. And so these services form a network of support that help our communities to grow and thrive. And now they face devastating cuts due to the economic turndown. Whether we are Black or white, Latino or Asian, Indigenous or immigrant, we must stand united to ensure our health, safety, and future success. That is why the NEA has launched a national campaign to demand that Congress, 1, respects the work educators do, 2, that they keep our students, communities, and colleagues safe, and that they support our families and remove barriers for our collective participation and voice, with no exceptions. Congress can do this by immediately passing legislation to stabilize funding for public education in the upcoming school year, as well as addressing inequities and impacting our students' opportunities, and provide the necessary resources to protect our students and educators as they re-enter our nation's public schools. This moment calls on us to go all in for all of us. And if you would like to be a part of this call to Congress, please visit, you see at the bottom of the screen, NEA.org/COVID action to be a part of the action. To request a general session-specific certificate of completion as a participant of a recorded sessions, you will need to send your request by email, and that email address is espqweb@nea.org. All requests must include the session title and on the screen certificate of completion code. Session certificates will not be provided if your viewer code is not included in the email request. Note, due to limitations in our ability to track attendance after live sessions, requests for personalized certificates will only be provided for participants of live webinars whose attendance can be verified. The certificate received for viewing recorded sessions will be session specific, but will not include personalized names. At this time, we are now at the conclusion of our webinar, and on behalf of the NEA ESP Quality Department and the Center for Great Public Schools, we would like to thank you for taking the time to participate this evening. There are many ways that you can continue to stay engaged on topics such as today's discussion, and one resource is by joining NEA Ed Communities. Ed Communities is NEA's online professional learning community, which allows educators to collaborate on issues important to them, share resources and ideas, network, and much more. And you don't have to be an NEA member to join. You can search a variety of groups or topics, and the link to that resource you can see, we'll put it in the chat box for the link that's mynea360.org. Please be sure to regularly visit the NEA ESP Professional Development webpage. That website is listed on the screen at NEA.org/ESPPD to stay up to date on upcoming webinar presentations, as well as you can gain access to recordings. On behalf of the Center of Great Public Schools, NEA's ESP Quality Department, I would like to once again thank Sabina Ellis for joining us tonight for this wonderful webinar session, and thank all of you for your participation. Please be sure to visit NEA.org/ESPPD to stay up to date with both recorded and upcoming webinar sessions. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night from ESP Quality.